Uh-oh, it looks like we piqued your interest in the Hideout. First of all, let me tell you what the Hideout is not. The Hideout is not for hustlers, for grinders, or for people who are looking for a shortcut to what the world calls success. The Hideout is about growing as men, creating lifelong friendships, and having the time of our lives. Are you ready to tap into the endless source that will take you from success to significance? The Hideout is 2.5 days of hiking, biking, and doing the little things that it takes to create lifelong friendships. I find that joy is nothing more than falling in love with your current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. And that's when we see growth in every area of your life. Have you accomplished your goals professionally and financially, and you still thirst for something more? Has success in these areas come at the expense of far more valuable things, like your family, your children, and your relationships? Alignment in business, strategic partnerships, and joint ventures all come from true relationships. The Hideout is designed to get to know people before you'll ever meet them. This is not your typical mastermind. The Hideout is focused on the one thing that will fuel everything: joy. And when joy is overflowing in your life, you'll find growth in your marriage, your relationships, and oh yeah, your business.
Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. A couple station identification things. If you saw the video on there about the Hideout, the winter is coming, and it's February 3rd through the 5th. We're batting 1,000, meaning that we had 12 guys the last time, and 12 guys had transformations, whether that was personal, professional, spiritual, or financial. It is an absolute incredible event. If you're interested in it, go to kellycardenas.com. You can apply there, and we want to make sure that we have some of the coolest guys. And honestly, what I keep telling people is that you never know who's going to show up at the Hideout. You never know who's going to show up. You never know who you're going to be with. The guys last time, they were walking on the trail with a guy. They fell in love with him. He was amazing. The next morning, he's cooking breakfast. And when he's cooking breakfast, he said, "Can you help me?" Or he asked me, "Can I help you cook?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." We're doing some eggs. We're doing some bacon. And one of the guys like, "Man, this is like the best eggs and bacon I've ever had." And I turned to him, I said, "This is the most expensive breakfast you've ever had," because it was the president and partner of MINA in the MINA group who was walking with them, and they had no idea who it was. But then he then he happened to be making eggs and bacon for all the guys at the Hideout. And so that's the thing is, every single person that's there is a person that is high flying. So we get to drop all those things down, and we get to just be ourselves, and we get to build up what truly a lot of times we lose, which my son was talking with his friend the other day. He said, my son's in 5th grade. And, my son asked the kid, his friend, he's like, "What is middle school like?" And he's like, "Man, there's no recess." And my son was like, "Oh man," he was so down and depressed about it. And I was thinking, like, everyone talks about kids and they're changing, around that middle school age, but the one thing that goes away is recess. And so we take this weekend, this 2.5 days, and we really fill the guys up. We do that. We actually created a women's one, which is June 2nd through the 4th. And, again, we have a couple slots available. So that's the station identification part. But the real and the reason why we're here is to help you solve your money problems. And I met this man a couple of years ago, probably in one of the darkest times in my life. And the reason why is because in one day, like, all of my money, bang, just gone. Do you guys remember it? March 16th, I believe it was, 2020. And, every bit of revenue stream in my entire life went away in 1 hour. They just said, like, the world is shutting down. And I made friends with this guy, and it was amazing because he didn't ask me about how he could partner with me. He didn't ask me what I could do for him. He just sat and said, "I simply want to be your friend. And if something comes out of that, then it does. But if it doesn't, then I'm going to be your friend for the rest of your life." And I believe that that's the type of people we need in our life, that we get a chance to be able to know them before we ever need them. And this man is blazing trails. We're going to be talking about some stuff that he's honoring his mom. And on February 15th, there's a huge thing that's coming that's going to change every single one of your lives. And there's so many titles that I can add to this man, but I just want to say that Mr. Bill Bloom, I think one of the most amazing financial minds in the world, but Bill Bloom, my friend, welcome to the show.
Kelly, it's such an honor, first of all, to be back. And thank you for that generous intro. I really believe you have to give before you could ever get anything. And life is not about us, it's about serving other people. So that's a big part of both of our lives. And that's why what you said to me was so true. We're going to be friends for life when we first met each other. It's like, dude, you're roped in, you're in. So, and here we are.
Well, it's been incredible to be able to watch you and watch you grow with your family. And, there's a lot of, there's buzzwords or buzz phrases that people do. They talk about like, oh, culture, or I'm all about the people, or I'm all about my family. And that becomes popular. But it's few and far between that you hear a person say it and then you watch them do it. And I get a chance to be able to watch you from afar while you don't think that I'm watching. And I'm seeing the way that you're loving your wife. I'm seeing the way that you're loving your kids. Why is it so important to you to the legacy aspect of what it is that you're doing?
It's all about alignment for me. I think when you have alignment in your life and you know what's important to you, all those other things fall off your plate. It's like a natural regression. Off your plate, get away. You don't belong in my life anymore. That could be friends, that could be family, it could be people who don't serve you anymore. I'm a big believer in that. It's okay to fire friends. I say that all the time. It comes down to alignment. For instance, we're going to have a big blizzard here in Chicago in about 2 hours. So I'm going to pick up my kids from school. It's going to be 1 o'clock. That's what I want to do with my time. I take them to school every single day. And I love that. And my wife and I spend great time together. So it's really been a big purpose of alignment. And that's helped me live my life and grow my businesses.
So, Bill, a challenge that I see a lot of people have is they choose one or the other. They choose purpose or they choose money. And you have found the holy grail where you are able to, you're one of the first people that I've ever seen that you put the purpose and the value on both sides. Because a lot of people, when I grew up, I remember, and when you grow up a little bit, I don't like to say, I got to be conscious with this because my mom would get mad at me and she would be like, we were never broke. She would say this seriously. And she would be like, we were never broke. That's offending. And I was like, well, were we poor? She was like, no, we had a lot of love. And I was like, well, what was it? She said, we had some deficiencies in finances at times, but that doesn't make you broke. It doesn't make you poor. And so, but growing up in financial deficiency at times.
Yep.
People in that, and especially coming from Lompoc, California, we grew up in a one-bedroom apartment, lived in a double wide, a single wide, all those things. A lot of times we saw money as evil. We saw people with money and we said, that's all they want. They're just focused on that and they're just trying to get our stuff. You're the first person that I've ever met that your purpose and your money is as important and it's equal. It walks together. How have you been able to do that? And how can people do that are listening out there?
Yeah, I mean, you and I both have similar upbringings from that standpoint. It's all surrounding a mindset. Like your mom, incredible, said, we're not poor, we have love. And that's a way to measure wealth. It's not about dollars and cents in your bank account. That's one way. If you have those three ride or die friends that you'll never get rid of, that's love. There's a ton of wealth in that because you can count on people. After joining the financial world in 2008 of all years, right out of college, I've seen so many things over the years where people sacrifice their families. I've seen entrepreneurs do it. I've seen other people who really don't have the means to do that have just said, you know what, I'm just going to spend all my money. I don't care about my kids. It comes down to how you think about money. And a lot of that was raised in you from your parents. So your mom set a great mindset around you, and that's why you're awesome. And she used to tell you that, right? Every single morning or every single night, you're amazing, you could do anything you want. And those messages stick with me. And because of you, Kelly, I tell my kids that every day. Because of you, I tell my sons that every single day. And they hear that. And I say to my son, James, who's the man? He goes, I am. Just giving them that confidence. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's 3. But when you instill those little things in someone, you're giving them so much more than just dollars and cents could ever do for them. That's true wealth. It's just having love for yourself, having love for others. And when the money comes into play, you're going to be able to do better things with it than having a really crappy mindset and being scarce about it. So the more abundant, the better.
So when you talked about money, in our last time that we got to spend together, you said something that was so elementary, but we looked past it. I said, how can I solve my money problems? And Bill, you said, get a little notebook, write down everything you spend, and then you went silent. And I was like, I was waiting for the bomb to drop. and I realized that you had just dropped a nuclear bomb on me and then backed off and was like, it's about to take effect here in a second. Because when you start to write the things down, you start to see it, and then you get to question yourself. I love the way that you work and the way that you work with people, because you get us to think about our decisions without you being that like authoritative person. Where has that come from? Like, you allow people to make mistakes, and it's like you got this stoic calm. Like, I feel like you should be in a purple robe, you know what I mean? Wandering with David Carradine. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're so chill and like, I mean, and I have the tendency when I get something, I'm like, I want to beat people over the head with it. Like, you need to use this today. Where does that come from?
I think giving yourself longer time frames has been my best friend, because I was someone who never reached my goals in the amount of time that I wanted to. It was always delayed, or I wasn't focused, or whatever that reason was. But the truth is, I wasn't giving myself enough time. Things are not going to happen immediately. If you could change one little habit, like we talked about, like what you just said, write down where you spend your money for 1 week and see where your habits are. Sounds boring, sounds like tedious. You don't want to bring a notebook with you. You don't want to track it on your phone when you make a purchase. That's something so little and so significant that could make a huge difference in your life. Another thought that I've been having was, if you want to buy something worth $1,000, let's say it's a watch, $1,000 watch, just as a theoretical, and you have income, you're working a 9 to 5, you have money coming in, like, what happens if you get laid off? How could you afford that $1,000 watch without having your income? So is that dividends? Is that real estate? What other assets do you have, if your job was not on the line, could allow you to afford these things? And that's how you should have a mentality around spending, buying things that we don't need. It's like, what assets are there to actually make you money so that you don't have to worry about that? And that's where having a different mindset and going back to having an abundant mindset is going to open you up and really give you new ways to think.
So this time frame, I think
Yes.
a lot of people are going to push back on this, Bill. And when I say push back on it, is because no one wants to wait. And no one does, man. And I remember calling you a couple years ago, and I was like, "Hey, Bill, what's up, man?" You're like, "Oh, I just got back from the track. With me and Justin Breen. Shout out to him. We just went and we drove some cars. We did the thing." And I was like, cool. Like, I love cars, man. And I said, "Bill, I'm just about to go get my oil changed in my truck." And man, they have a new version of my truck. And I thought you were going to be my friend, man. I thought you were going to support me. And you didn't. You didn't at all. I was like, man, they got a new version of this truck. It's got some new features on it. And man, I remember pausing for a bit because I was about to drop the bomb on you, and I thought you were just going to support me as a friend. And I was like, dude, they got 0% interest for like 60 months. And you went a little bit silent, and then you just came right back, and you were like, but you'll still owe the money. And I was like, damn, man, how are you going to rain on my parade? But help a person out there that is like, yeah, Bill, that sounds cool, but I got a credit card right now. I can get it now, and I can enjoy it now.
Here's the question. I always like to come back with questions to get you thinking about your thinking. That's a Dan Sullivan-ism. That's a great one. But when you buy that thing, does that have an opportunity to make you money? So when you go buy a sweatshirt, or I bought this t-shirt, is this going to make me money? The answer is no. So if you're buying a t-shirt every day, every week, you're going to the store and buying things that don't have an ability to make you money, probably shouldn't do that anymore. You have to look at things as assets, because we're living in a world right now. Yeah, 0% sounds great right now when rates are 6-7%. That sounds like a steal. But for your scenario, Kelly, you want to have people in your corner that have nothing to gain, who are going to give you honest advice. Mm-hmm. That's the key, is being truthful to yourself, or having someone be truthful to you. Listen, I think it would be great if you got a new truck, but is it better to keep your payment where it is and pay that off and drive it to the ground, or put yourself into further debt, or put your family into further debt? That's the main thing. Like, what's the point? You already have a vehicle. You have another incredible vehicle, an old school, right? So I was just being as direct as I possibly can in a nice way.
Well, I think it's incredible, because it's one of those things where, growing up, again, the financial literacy side wasn't as much, and then there was this shift for my wife and I. And I remember talking to you about a couple things, and for the first time in our lives, with me and my wife, we had zero debt. We had zero debt. We put ourselves into place, and I tell you, it's probably the most freeing thing in the whole entire world, because you don't have that monkey, right? You don't have that monkey on your back. You have something coming February 15th, and It's what I love about you, Bill, is when you do things, they all have an incredible meaning. It's not just about like, hey, I'm starting this business, but it's connected. And this one's even named after someone really special too.
Oh, Can you talk about it? Oh, boy. Would love to, Kelly. Thank you for the intro for this. So, new financial company, new financial application website. It's called Diane Money. It's named after my mom, who passed away almost 2 years ago now, almost 2 years to the day from this recording. And it's a way to honor her. And she showed our family so much love. She's the one who took care of the books. She worked 2 jobs to keep the lights on when my dad wasn't working. We had times where we did not have enough efficiency. We had that deficiency, like you said, in the household coming in, Kelly. It was painful. I remember there were times where we didn't know if we were going to have a roof over our head because we were so late on their mortgage payment. And I don't want people to ever be in that financial position. And that's why I created this company and this technology to solve your financial problems for you, so that you don't have to do the thinking anymore. I mean, think about that. If you have student loans, which I had $54,000 of them coming out of college. I had to figure out how to pay them off in an efficient manner. Credit card debt, I've had it before because I started a company, and it was a really rough first year. It was really tough, making only $24,000 that year. It was really tough. But I was 28. I said, screw it, let's do it. Let's figure it out. So basically, I've taken what I've done for my own life and for others people's lives, created technology to do it for you, to really just take those guesses and stresses out of your financial life. And I think that's so important, because then you can go love your family more. You can love your people more and enjoy your life.
Well, I think it's amazing too, because like for me, as everyone out there listening to the podcast, that this is not I don't bring people on here to promote a book or to promote a product or anything like that. I bring people on because they're really cool people. But it's amazing, because with Diane Money, I remember you sent it to me when it was in the beta stages, and I started playing around with it. And I tell you, it made me kind of mad, because I was like, where has this been for my whole entire life? Because I mean, even down, like, you thought about everything. Like, you said, okay, well, what's a goal that you want? And at first I was kind of like, why is he trying to get in my business? That's what I was thinking on Bill's side. I was like, why are you trying to get in my business, man? And then I was like, all right, I'll just throw something out there. And I wanted to play around with this. So I took like 25,000. And then it was like, what do you want this for? And I was like, why you want to know? You know what I mean? And I was like, wow. So I started thinking about it. And I was like, for a vacation.
Boom.
And then it was like, when do you want to go on the vacation? I was like, why you want to know this, man? And then I was like, well, I would like to go on vacation in September. So I put it in September. And then it said, put a picture here to motivate you about this thing. And I Googled it. I Googled a picture of the Four Seasons in Maui, is where my family loves to go. I know that, going for, 8 to 10 days is probably going to cost me about 25 grand. And I was like, so I put it in. And then I was like, why is Bill all in my business? And then I started to see the breakdown of it and how consumable and how simple it can be to be able to do it. But most of us think of the elephant in front of us as opposed to the one bite that we need to consume right now. And my hat's off to you, man. I just think that it's such a cool thing. But like, why is it so important? When I was asking you about it, you even said to me, like, it's about serving people. Right? It's about serving people. It's not as much about the product, but it's about serving people. Why is serving people for you so important in your life?
Because that's who I am. I just went through this whole unique ability process through a strategic coach. It's just what gets me going. That's what gets my blood flowing. That's why I'm family first. I love to feel appreciated. And if I put things in front of people, that's going to give them more confidence and really more structure in their life to go out and live a better life. When we go through tough times, those things either stay with us, keep us down, or motivate us. And this has just truly motivated me to really put people in a 1,000,000% better place than where they've been before. That's what gets me going. That's what gets my drive going. And if we've created something that's so simple, literally, it's like fundamental, it's rudimentary. It's so simple, Kelly, and it's gotten 1,000,000 times better since you've looked at it. That was months ago. It's as smooth as it can be. It could just tell you exactly what you need to do every month. It's like that motherly figure looking over your shoulder in a good way, saying, okay, here you go, son or daughter. All you need to do is 200 extra bucks this month, and you can get there by X date that you set. It's giving you control again, so you don't have to live other people's lives as well. It's not about what other people are doing. It's all about you. And bring it back to the core. Beautiful things happen, man. I've seen it, witnessing it. It's awesome.
I think it's so incredible because the accountability part is the part that most of us lack, right? And because let's be honest, all the books out there on being financial literate are all out there. You can listen to them on podcasts. You can listen to them you can watch them on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you need to subscribe because 84% of you ain't subscribed to be watching the show. Like, mash the button right now. You know what I'm saying? Mash it
right now.
Mash it. So my son will think I'm cool because I have more subs. That's what he says. Subs. Dad, get some subs. I was like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And he was like, well, they just got to push the button. Push the button. So push the button. But you can do those things, but there's very little accountability. But I love your type of accountability. When did you learn, Bill, that as opposed, because there's some accountability that's like, if you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe, then you'll do this. And if you don't, then you're just not a winner. And I'm like, I just shut that stuff off, man. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't, now I have friends who are motivated by that, but I'm not at all. And I would say a large part of the population needs encouragement. And it seems like you have this way to be able to encourage people into making decisions that are best for them. Like, can you take us behind the curtain and help us to understand how you do this, Bill?
Would love to. I'll take you backstage here. When you know what you want, that comes first. First and foremost, always. It goes back to alignment. It goes back to your core values. If you really just want a simple life, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we look into social media, we saw all these posts, we see all these cars, we see all this nonsense. A lot of things we don't need. If you can just break down your life to what's important to you, and that's what our app does, that's what the website does and the technology does. If you make your life about you and not trying to impress others, like, oh my God, I used to live my life thinking so much about what other people thought of me. And it turned out they were thinking zero about me. I've bought Rolexes, I've bought suits, I've bought Mercedes. I bought all sorts of stuff to try and look professional in my early 20s, and it's all nonsense. So I've lived it and I've been there. I've done it. I've made those mistakes. I did a post on it and I did the math. The numbers tell the truth. I bought a $6,000 Rolex. I sold it for $6,000. So I didn't make money on it. They always say, you make money on this. It's not true. And if I would have invested that money, it could have been close to $80,000 at the time when I did the math. So I lost out on $80,000 just over a 10-year period of buying a stupid watch that I sold that has no value to me. So there's proof in the pudding, man. I can't be more transparent than that. It's just, I thought other people would think it's cool and other people think you're kind of douchey like, about that stuff. It's just, they don't really care about you. They care about themselves. And again, make it about you. There's nothing wrong with that. But use the technology that's available to you to make your life better. And just simplify it.
So with this kind of thing, because I think we hear both sides, and I think this is on purpose, media-wise. We hear the Dave Ramsey side, right? That is, save, 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 save. Don't buy anything. Eat rice and top ramen, and then get to this point, at 85 years old, right? Or right? I'm exaggerating, but this is what a lot of times you hear, like you've got to have no fun in your life at all, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, when you're 90, you will have the life of your dreams. And then there's the other side, the, rich dad, poor dad side that's like, no, leverage every single thing that you possibly can, use other people's money, use debt as good, do all these things. Where do you sit on that scale, Bill?
I sit where it comes down to your ability to sleep at night. Ooh, just take a second. I saw my friend Scott Donnell, who's an incredible entrepreneur. He did a TikTok post. He said, you know what? Invest in things that are boring. That's how you build wealth for the long term. That could be real estate. That is one of the most incredible ways to build your wealth is through real estate and through depreciation and through having other people pay off your assets. It sounds simple, but someone still needs to change a toilet, and that's a precursor. That's the one you always hear. We've had to do it in our old condo. It didn't work anymore. We had to go buy one. It was $1,000. It's just, there's moving parts to that. It comes down to, Kelly, and I'm not a big fan of the Dave Ramsey thing, besides his debt motto is the snowballing of debt. I think that's brilliant because he had to do it himself, just like I had to do it myself and figure that out. I didn't know who Dave Ramsey was at that time. But if you're able to sleep at night taking a ton of risk and you sleep like a baby, start a company, go for it, take those risks, because not everyone can do that. Some people would lose a whole night's worth of sleep if they even created an LLC or an S Corp or something like that. And I love that stuff. I think it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's figure things out. But we're all wired differently. And I think that's what we need to understand. You're different. There's probably one or two people who have like a similar thinking brain as you, Kelly, on the planet. Same with me. Same with everyone watching, listening on your awesome show. So we're all different. So you can't do a blanket recommendation like that. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Weed out the nonsense. It's all noise. It's all noise. If you want to be worth $1 trillion, then look at the Kiyosaki way. If you want to be super scarce, look at the Dave Ramsey way, right? Think about your mindset. It's all, everything. I think you need to have a happy medium and do a little bit of these different things and break down the who, not how, who should be doing the work instead of how is it going to get done. Think about who should be doing this work. And the answer is probably not you most of the time. And if someone can help you get ahead, leverage that. That's where you're going to get the most return is through human beings and technology.
How have you been able to use technology to make your life simpler? Because I mean, with Diane Money, like it is, and I tell you seriously, it is so simple. It is so simple that it made me so angry because I was thinking, like, I mean, I didn't do the calculations on the Rolex thing, and I probably won't because I'll just feel bad about myself. Um,
Oh, I felt like an idiot when I did that. I'm like, I'm a financial plan. Like I have all this experience. I'm like, that was so stupid, but I felt really cool when I first got it. So stupid.
but how were you like? Talk to me about leveraging, and leveraging the technology to make things simple. Because I think a lot of times there is a school of people out there that think, well, if it's simple like that, it isn't worth anything.
That's interesting. And for some people, it might not be worth anything, and that's okay. That's totally cool. I mean, you're never going to have 8 billion people as your customer or your client or someone who works with you. You don't need that. You just don't need that. The Diane money thing was made to be simple because I want to use it, number one. Number two, I want to actually have people to have a simple piece of technology where they don't have to really do a ton of thinking or do the math. Like we're doing the math for you. So here's a perfect example. Let's say you have 5 student loans. You don't know which one to pay off first. You don't know which one to tackle first. We basically do that whole snowballing of debt, Dave Ramsey like thought process for you. We'll tell you, do this one first, put this much away, and then let's go to the next one, then the next one. We'll figure it out for you. That's where Diane's brilliance comes into play. She's going to figure it out with you and for you. And think of the stress that that's going to alleviate for your life. Don't you want it to be simple?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want things complex? Things are too complex as it is. Simplicity is such a peaceful thing. So, yeah, if someone wants to go out there and say this is too simple, that's okay. There's probably super complex and other things and different models that they could use, but I wanted to leverage my time. That's what the technology was. I could only sit in front of so many people in a day, so many people in a year. And again, I spend a lot of time with my family. So this technology is a way for me to be in front of people with what I do on a day-to-day basis anyways and simplify people's lives. So it's a big multiplier, big multiplier.
So, Bill, what I was writing the other day is that most of the time people complicate things up so they seem important. And if they seem important, then they almost manufacture value in other people's lives because they become important in that person's life. And that all drives back to ego. We have all got them, but that drives back
Totally.
to ego, right? So the more I can complicate it, the more important I am to you, the more that you see you can't live without me, the less confidence you have in you and the more confidence you have in me. So now you're so dependent on me that you don't want to ever lose me. And this is where a lot of businesses go. You have taken the exact opposite, which takes the craziest amount of confidence in the world because you're able to say, you know what, like, I want it to be about you. Where does this confidence come from? Did this come from Mama Diana or Mama Diane? Was she telling you these kind of things where you built up as far as confidence? Because, I mean, if you didn't have that confidence and you were insecure in these places, you would not be okay with people having things this simple.
Oh yeah. Well, it comes down to the investment that they made in myself and my brother too, but he didn't like sports as much as I did. To put the time in and put the work in. Gotta work, gotta work, gotta do the work. I can't stress that enough. And the confidence came in doing the repetitions, getting it done, playing sports. And that was my competition field. And I love that stuff. Competition is number 3 for my strength finders, the Clifton strength finders. And I'm a futurist, ideation, and competition. Those are my top 3. So I'm geared for stuff like this. This is just how my brain works. And there's not a lot of people who have similar brains than I do. And it's true for all of us. My mom gave me that confidence to go out and put the repetitions in, get it done. And then if someone needs to be that complicated, Kelly, they are so insecure in their own right. Let's just be honest. They need that to survive. I don't need that nonsense. I don't want that. I just want a simple life where I could spend time with my family, serve a huge purpose to millions of people through the app. It'll multiply that. And why not leave the world a million times better than where I started in the 80s when I was born? 1985, here we go. We're 37 years later. I just love doing this stuff and just being a big inspiration for people. I hope it comes from that. And I don't need it to be about me. I've learned that. I lived that in my 20s. I'm in my 30s now. I don't care about that. That means nothing because at the end of the day, people don't think that much about you in the first place.
How can a person start on that journey? Jarek Robbins, he was just on the show the other day, and he was saying it's the second mountain. The first mountain is the accumulation of all the stuff, the goals, all the things that we have. And then he said you get to the top of that first mountain, and the air is really thin and it's super lonely. And then you realize that there's a second mountain, and that second mountain is of significance. How can a person, like, or is it just experience, Bill? I mean, like, tell me about when it started to click that the Rolex wasn't the jam. Because when you first got it, I remember thinking and hearing people saying, life is not about money. Money doesn't have that much value, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but you ain't financially deficient like me. I was about to say it, but my mom would have smacked me. That's easy for you to say, rich dude who now has found like the meaning of life. I'm up in here in a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm saying that I think that money can buy me happiness, man, because I want that chain that Run DMC has. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And if I have that chain, I'm good. When was the fork in the road, or the thing that you started to think like, man, this watch that doesn't tell that great of time?
Yeah, it was always about 2 minutes off, actually. It was interesting.
Yeah. When did that happen?
I think it was 35. It was about 2 years ago. Because my first son was born, and now we have our second son. The money's a great thing, because if someone's sick, or if something needs to happen, or if we need to go buy new bottles, because, I mean, that happened to us. We went through 3 sets of bottles because our son Noah didn't like the first one. He was born premature. Second set, didn't like it. He just couldn't get a grasp for it. But think about this. We bought the product, spent like $20. Some people don't have that $20, and that drives me crazy. That literally drives me crazy. And that's why Diane Money is here, so people can figure out how to make that happen to make their life easier. Those little things are the things we overlook. And I do it all the time. We all do. But the third set of bottles were perfect. But now we have things we can give to other people that are basically brand new and help other people too. So there's value in that as well. My thought is, if I'm doing something, is it going to make us money? Number one, does it have appreciation value? That will stop you in and of itself. It should. That's ridiculous. If it's not going to make you money, if it's buying you something that's pointless, don't do it. That's a simple tip. Number two, can it make a purpose and a bigger and better future for someone else's life? Now that's where that whole 35 range came into play. After you have kids, it's like, holy cow, my life is so different. And I know you went through this too, Kelly. I mean, think about your gratification journals and, you know, the things you write for your daughter. It's really just so important to have those alignment shifts. Those are so, so important. Jeff Spencer talks about that. Nick Peterson talks about that. You have to have alignment. And when you have those things in your life, I can't stress it enough. All those things that meant something 10 years ago, they go away. They dissipate.
What was the first thing, like, you know, because at 35, it starts to click. Where were you at? Were you at dinner and buying, you know, I mean, because I remember being in Vegas, and in Vegas, we used to go to dinner all the time. Like, we lived in Vegas for 14 years, and we used to go to dinner all the time. And a lot of times we'd have friends with us, and it was almost a sport, right? At the end, like, who can reach for the check the fastest? Like, let me grab the thing the fastest. And, you know, because you want to kind of throw it down, like, I got you. You know what I mean? I got you. And then I remember a time where I looked at that, and I was like, I looked at my wife, and I was like, how much are we spending on dinner, just going out to dinner with friends? This is a ton, right? And what could we do, you know, with that? And it wasn't being a miser, because I wanted to be generous and, you know, those kind of things. But where were you when at that 35? Take me to that place.
Yep.
Even tell me what you were wearing.
I was in a coffee shop. I remember this. I don't know what I was wearing, but I was sitting in a coffee shop across the street from my office, and I'm thinking to myself, I had a good year for business. where did my money go?
Mm.
Where did everything go? And then I pulled out the QuickBooks and take a look at that. And I'm like, I just wasted a ton of money on things that I don't need. That was the big precursor. And my wife said, okay, how's business? It was close to the end of the year. And I was like, look at all this stuff. This is crazy. So now this is a perfect segue into what just happened. I hit my biggest business goal I've ever had for Bloom Financial this year. Like I hit my milestone number this year. 2 days ago, actually, it came in. Like got the payment. So I was like, there was a year. I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And I had a goal to buy something. And my wife said, are you going to go get it? I go, no. She looked at me like I was crazy. Like, no, it's just not aligned. I don't need it. I haven't bought myself anything. I'm not going to buy myself anything. I don't want anything. It's about who you become. I just wasn't happy with what I was doing with my time and my resources at that time. And now, being 37 with 2 kids, I would much rather use that money for a vacation, or much rather use that to help other people, or donate that to charity, because we're involved in some charities. You don't know the lives that you're affecting, and it's not about that, because it's not about you. But writing those checks and doing those things, I think that's what life has really been all about for me these past couple of years, especially having kids. I just can't stress it enough. It's the best feeling in the world to give. It really is. Really, really is, Kelly.
Bill, how have you been able to, though, keep it like you're still a fun guy? You know what I mean? Like you're still a fun guy. You're still cool. You still enjoy your family. You enjoy your life. Because I think a lot of times, again, like when you're financially deficient, it's almost like this polarization, right? Either I'm going to be super wealthy and just only think about money, and then my life is going to absolutely suck, but you know what? I'm going to be rich. And then there's the other side of like, or I'm going to have tons of purpose. I'm going to be financially deficient, and you seem to have both sides combined. Like, help us to be able to construct that, because I think there's some, and when I say this, maybe it's not everyone, but those of you out there listening that maybe connect with me at all, this is the way I thought for so long. This is the way I thought for so long, until I started to get around people like a Bill, who I started to see that, wow, it wasn't the amount in the bank account, it was the mindset. And then the mindset built the bank account, but the mindset couldn't be built without the heart set, right? And if I got my heart right, which Bill has his heart right, then his mindset, right? So his heart set developed his skill set, and then his skill set or his heart set developed his mindset. Mindset developed the skill set. But for me, for so long, I was like, no, you either choose. You're going to be rich and horrible as a person and have no purpose, or you're going to be broke and change the world.
Yeah. Gosh. This comes down to a simple term called gratitude for me. Like, if you make $100 million and you're crabby, the $100 million will make you worse. You're going to be a big multiplier of negative energy. If you're just a bad person, all those things get multiplied. If you're happy with who you are, if you're happy with what you're doing, when you're at $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million or $100 million, those happiness levels are going to continue to increase. That's what I've seen. I've seen it in entrepreneurs. I've seen it with people who we've been surrounded with. And it's like, wow, you can be as successful as you want to be, but if you don't have your core principles and your core values in check, you're going to be lost, and you're going to think the money is going to be the byproduct. And if you wait to get money to be happy, think about how much time you've wasted during your life. If you're 25 thinking, I have to have $100 million or I'm not going to be happy, because that's what Alex Hormozy says. Well, you're going to waste 50 years of your life trying to get there. Why not be happy now? Like, it's costing you nothing. It's a choice. Like, why not be happy now? So that's a mindset change and a big game changer for me, Kelly. Just, okay, I'm here now. I have this now. I have everything I need. Why not enjoy life and enjoy the ride? Because Without it, you're going to be a miserable SOB, that's for sure. And your family's not going to want to be around you. Your kids aren't going to want to be around you. And think about that. If your kids don't even want to be around you, something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong.
I think one of the coolest things too, Bill, is with, you know, and I think of financial freedom not as a number. I think of financial freedom as being able to take your kids to school when you want to take your kids to school, right?
Totally.
And this was a paradigm shift for me. When my whole entire career, I used to wrap my family around my business. You know, if my business was okay, like you could come and you could travel with me on my business trips, whatever it was, and I brought my family and I wrapped my family around my business. When I chose the other way and I wrapped my business around my family, my wife and I, we had a paradigm shift and we said, you know, we want to pick the kids up from school. So we're going to create our schedule based off the fact that one of us is going to be done at 2:00 or, you know, or not going to be working on that day so they can go and do it. Now, did that mean at times that there was a little bit less finances? It did. So when I talk about financial freedom, it's not, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. It could be for you, but, you know, let's talk about this because the financial freedom part of it creates freedom in so many different areas of your life. Like, I mean, the stress, the pressure. I mean, like I was saying, you got that monk-like feel and you're so calm, David Carradine, you know what I mean? But how much pressure do you see people under because of finances?
Oh, well, you and I both lived it growing up. It's insurmountable at times. I mean, it causes cancer, it causes stress, it causes heart attacks. I mean, it's real. It's real. It has a huge effect on your health that's not talked about enough. And that's a big, 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 big problem. And I saw that in both of my parents because both of them were not healthy and have not been healthy. Yeah, it's if you don't get your stress in order, that's why I want the app and the technology to be so simple. If you keep that going as well and put that pressure on you, it's either going to motivate you if you want to get to $100 million or if you just want to get out of your everyday struggles. Those everyday struggles, those are catastrophic because it's hard to get out of those habits. And if you don't get out of the habits by leveraging technology or another human being, the problem is financial advisors don't help people, for the most part, who have a ton of debt because they don't get paid anything. That's why you use a couple dollars a month service. You have a financial advisor in your pocket to do the work for you that you can get from an actual financial advisor. That's the leverage of technology is you don't have to sit in front, go and do a stuffy office, do anything like that. You could do it all yourself. It's so cool. It's so, so cool. And that relieves that stress.
Bill, isn't this going to make a lot of people mad at you? What you just said too? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I love that type of attitude that you have because you're taking it right to the people as opposed to, and I was just reading about this morning. It's funny that you said it because most of the time the financial world is geared towards people who understand the financial world. And most of the time it's so complicated up that a kid from Lompoc coming from a 1-bedroom apartment, 5 people in a double wide or a single wide, we just don't understand. And it's pretty simple stuff. Like if you would have told me when I was a kid, Kelly, if you'll just write down everything you spend, I would have been mad at you again, right? But I would have been like, is that it? Like, really? And then when you said, you know, think about, is this purchase going to make you some money? Is it going to be an asset? I didn't know what an asset was. I didn't know what a liability was. I didn't know how to break down my credit. Like, I didn't know that, you know, I believe it's 30 or 35% of your credit is the amounts owed. I didn't know that.
Something like that. I mean, credit's not that important until you need it. People spend a lot of time on that stuff, and it's really not, that score is not important until you need it. Like if you're paying your bills on time, if you're not overcharging, if you're not over 30% on a credit card of your balance that's available. So if you had a $10,000 balance and if you have a $5,000 balance, like that's not a positive for the credit card company. That's more of a risk. You're more of a risk. You have to think about who wins with credit cards. It's not the user, the banks. The banks created a product to loan money at a 15 to 30% interest rate, so they win. What about home loans? When you buy a home, if you only pay the minimum for 30 years, you're going to be paying almost double the cost of that house. Homes were made for banks. Homes were made for people. The product is, where is the debt going? I mean, you leave your money in the bank, they'll pay you point nothing, right? But they could loan that money out at a 27% for a credit card, or an 8% for a house right now, or 7%, or whatever that number is. It's arbitrary, but who's making money? Have to ask yourself in every transaction, who's making money? Is this in my best interest? I mean, that's how I run my Bloom financial practice. It has to be in the person's best interest, even if I can't help them. I tell them that. So understanding that and asking yourself that question before you do a big transaction or a big purchase is like, who's going to win from this? Am I winning? Am I playing the right game financially? That could be a big game changer. I should write a little book about that, but it's a good idea from today's show for me. But I don't see a path for people to understand that. We're not educated on these things. The next generation will be, because 14 states are making it mandatory to have financial education in high school, but only 14 out of 50.
So with Diane money, I mean, is it truly, like, take me through it? Okay, so I'll give you a scenario. I'm 25 years old. I just got out of college. Okay, so I got $50,000 in debt. Let's make it even. $20,000 towards one loan, $30,000 to the other. I have spent another $7,000 in credit cards. Right? So I've charged that up while I've been in school. So I got $7,000 in credit cards. I've got a car, and that car, I'm pretty much like even Steven, maybe just a little bit under, but I owe about 10 grand on it. So I got the 20, I got the 30, that's 50. I got the 7 from the credit card, that's 57. I got 10 from the car, I got $60,000 in debt. I'm 25 years old. I get out of college. And I get my first job. And I'm thinking, because I went to college and I've spent all this money, I'm going to get this good job. But I can tell you this, that ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And so I get this, job, and I'm living in Chicago, and Chicago's expensive. What do I do?
Love this. This is like an ideal user. This is like a perfect user case for Diane money.
So now I open up Diane money. Like, yep. I mean, does she say hi to me?
She says, "Hello, welcome to a bigger and better financial future." Boom.
Is it your mom's voice? Did you get your mom's voice?
No, I wish, man.
Yeah, that would be cool. You should. God. There's some AI stuff out there. You should do that. I'll partner with you on that one. I'm just joking.
That's awesome. That would be so cool, Kelly.
Or you know what would be funny is if you had the notifications on and you made a dumb purchase on your credit card that was linked to Diane money, then your mom would be like, "What are you doing?" Can you imagine? Can you imagine being at the store and your phone yelling out, "What are you doing? Is that an asset?"
You are so in line with some of the things we have coming up. Oh my God, there's going to be some really cool stuff coming that's so different from everything else. So,
I love it.
All right, stay tuned for that. I love that too. That's awesome.
Right. So I'm the 25-year-old, just got out of college. I got a menial job. I'm 60 grand in debt. What do I do?
Here's what Diane's going to do for you, and I'm going to use that as a preference point, because it would be the same thing I would tell someone. Is it's going to calculate, just making your minimum payments, what the debt load is going to look like for the credit card, for the student loans, because that 20,000 and then a 30,000 student loan, one of them might have a 6% interest rate, one of them might have a 7%. So they have different. So the 20,000, let's say, has a 7%, and the 30,000 has a 6%. So which one do you do first? We're going to do all that math for you to break that down do this first, do that first, or second, do this third, do that fourth. The reality is paying the car off last would probably be best for you because that's probably a 3 or 4% loan at that point, maybe 2%. But figuring out which student loan to tackle first would be great, but getting rid of that bad credit card debt should be first because that's probably a 15 to a 30% interest rate. It's really hard to get out from under that if you're just making the $35 a month. I mean, it might take you 40 years.
Bill, help me with this with terms, because terms are really big in the financial world. And I
Huge.
learned this because a guy was saying, and I think I told you this before. One of my friends, he was like arbitrage. And I heard arbitrage. I was like, damn, this guy is intelligent. Like, I don't know what he's saying, but he must be intelligent because he said arbitrage. I don't know what that word means. And then I turned around and I Googled it real quick. That's what I do. That's where I get my MBA. And I Googled it, and it said the difference between two numbers. And I was like, man, I wanted to smack that guy. He's my buddy. He's a really cool dude. His name is Chris Nago. He's a really nice guy. But I wanted to shake him and be like, yo, man, you're using a big old word for some small meaning. But I think that's prevalent in the financial world is complicated words. So most people tap out, right? I can't understand that. So I'm pretty much not going to get out of this stuff anyway. So, I'll be paying on this for the rest of my life. So I might as well get in a little bit more debt. This is a normal thought process.
Oh, totally.
But when you said debt load, can you break down debt load as if you were explaining it to my 11-year-old son?
Absolutely. So I would say if you take out a $10,000 loan, the debt load is how much interest are you contractually obligated to pay if you pay your minimum amount, like the least amount possible, over the 7-year period or 10-year period that you're having your agreement with the bank or whomever. So the debt load is how much debt total you're going to pay. And that's similar to an amortization schedule for your house. So when you buy a house, if you take a loan out, they're going to give you this 7-page form, and it's going to show you how much interest you pay throughout the whole entire loan. And it's crazy. Nobody looks at that. I would recommend you all do if you own a house. A little tip, and this is a fun one, is whatever your monthly mortgage payment is, pay it, half of it in the middle of the month. It's going to cut down the number of years you pay because you're paying interest halfway through the month instead of waiting 30 days. The bank wins when you pay every 30 days. Pay off that interest in half every month. Boom, 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 boom. You could set it and forget it. That's an easy one. That will save you money over time too.
So, okay, so we're in the 25-year-old, right? So we look at the car first because it's the highest, the credit card. Sorry, credit card first. And then once we start once we start going on this, is this, with the credit card, do you pay as much as you possibly can?
Yes. So what we love to see happen and what Diane's going to do is you're going to set the date when you want to have that paid off by.
That's all you have to do.
Correct. And if you say in 6 months, I want to have the $7,000 worth of student loans paid off, or credit card paid off. So it's going to calculate that for you. Here's what you need to do every month, boom, 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 to have this executed by that 6-month period. So doing simple math, it's a little bit over $1,000 a month. But if you don't want to have to think about that for your student loans, for your car payments, for your credit cards, it's going to look at that whole picture. It's going to really do the math for you and take those guesses and stresses out of your life. So that way, if you have $1,000 freed up every month, what do you do with that? So if you have a daunting $50,000 student loan over your head, like I did, I lived it, $54,000. I remember it vividly. It sucked. I took all my bonuses because I had no income, by the way. I had to create it. I had no salary. So I went out and worked for it. And I took all my bonuses and paid them off. That's how I did that. I just took chunks out at a time. So when you have a bonus coming in, are you going to spend it? Are you going to go on vacation with it? Or are you going to pay off the loan? I think you need to have a balance. So don't do the Dave Ramsey thing, Kelly. So I'm kind of intermingling a few things right now. Like maybe you do 3 out of your 4 bonuses to pay off the student loans, use the other one, go on vacation, go enjoy your life. Live for now, but also plan for the future.
Bill, honestly, like it's so crazy now. I've always joked and said I want Bill in my pocket, you know, because I wanted Bill in my pocket because when I was I was on the way to get my oil changed and get me a new truck. I was going to get that new truck. It had a couple new features. I'm so glad I didn't get that new truck. But after I got off the phone with you, I was like, damn, I wish I had Bill in my pocket. Now I can have Bill in my pocket. You were talking about too earlier with Diane Money that there's a feature where you can actually link it to your bank accounts and it actually does it automatically for you.
That's gonna be the next iteration of it. That's what my big goal is to really allow you to have permission, to give Diane permission to help you. Okay, let's pay this extra money off every month and boom, 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 boom. So that way it's more of a every month you're getting updates and you're getting reports and it's going to show you where you're at. And it's a really intuitive feature. I mean, it's great to see all your accounts in one place. There's plenty of tools that could do that. But if it's not aligning you with your purpose, you have to have goals, because if you don't have a goal, it's just like being out on a sailboat. If you don't have a direction, you're just going to flail away endlessly with the wind, and you're never going to end up in the right place. So, and that's true with your money too. You have to set a goal. You have to, and start small. Just start small. Do something. And the reality is, you've already reached financial goals. Think back 2 years from now. Think back 5 years, 10 years from now. Think about where you were before and think about where you're at now. You've already made tremendous progress that you probably haven't given yourself credit for. And now this is just a multiplier to get things done in a more efficient and simple manner for you. That's all it is. We're going to keep having you hitting your goals and having fun with it too. That's the main thing. It is fun because we're going to have some travel partners and some affiliation partners that are going to really reward you. So, okay, you got those $50,000 of student loans paid off. Why don't you go take a really nice vacation? Why don't you go do something fun? That's what I want this to be all about, is enjoying your life.
Well, you're an example of that, and that's I want to commend you on it, man. I mean, because again, a lot of times people get really stiff, and when I found, like with you, you inspire me so much because you're probably one of the first people that I ever got around that money wasn't stiff, and that it was like, oh well, we can have fun with it, we can connect with it. What would be your 3 pieces of advice to a person out there that's struggling financially, like that's in the weeds right now? So we're going to talk to 3 people in the weeds, doing okay. And because generally you're either in the weeds, on your way into the weeds, or you're coming out of the weeds.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that, Kelly.
Right?
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what about the person that's in the weeds right now that's like, Bill, your voice is so calming, Bill. Kelly sometimes yells on the podcast, but you're so calm, you're so chill, and you're like, well, just write it down. Set a goal. Grab Diane. Diane's going to tell you.
Yeah.
But they're saying, you don't understand, Bill, because I'm in the weeds right now. What's the 3 pieces of advice for that person?
Well, I say, first of all, I understand it. I've been through the weeds. I've lived in the weeds a lot of my life. There's been times where I've had no paychecks for months and months and months, because I didn't have an income. So I've been in the weeds. I've been there, done that. So I could relate to you. I'm here for you, actually. If you're in the weeds, there's probably slippage somewhere, or things that we don't need. And that's the tough part, is just stopping those behaviors and those habits. And nobody wants to hear this, so I'm just going to say it anyways because it's the truth. Always tell the truth. You have to stop eating out. You have to stop doing these things, and it could be for 6 months. It's not like your whole entire life, like what Dave Ramsey says. You don't need to like start enjoying your life until you're 90, but get something to strive for. Get something to go after every single day that can motivate you Just take one thing. It doesn't have to be everything because you're not going to accomplish everything in the next 6 months anyways. It's just not going to happen. I've lived it before. It doesn't work. So if you're in the weeds, if you want to get out of credit card debt, you could leverage Diane. There's a free feature to it. I'm like shamelessly plugging this, but you have to put the information in, but it'll help you and do the thinking for you, show you what you need to do. But it's probably because you have too much spending on your credit card. You took out a really bad auto loan, like you're way overextended, like you have $1,000 a month payment, which you don't need. Try and get out of those bad financial situations first. And then whenever you're out of it, if you have an extra $300 a month, $500 a month, that's leverage that you now have to get out of the weeds. That's really important. It's not about, okay, I have 500 extra bucks this month and I'm going to go spend it now because I've neglected myself for 6 months or a year. It's like, okay, what's going to give me the most bang for my buck for this extra 500 so that I never get back into the weeds? That's the key. What's the leverage that's going to get me out of and keep me out of the weeds? And if you're falling into the weeds, this is a hard one because you're overspending or you didn't have enough savings if you just lost your job, because a lot of people are getting laid off right now, is try and build up other sources of income, whether it's real estate or dividends or really having income coming in now. You don't have to wait until you're 50 to have income coming in. Look for ways to generate income outside of your work so that way you don't fall back into the weeds or go into the weeds. That's really important. It's just, how efficient is your money? What's efficient with your money, or is it not efficient? And is it working towards your goals? I mean, it's true for all three of the people.
Bill, is amazing because you take the emotional part out of it, because I think so many people get, and myself included, for so long I got emotional about the financial aspect as opposed to just looking at it like a hammer. Like when you use a hammer to knock the nails into the wall, the hammer is awesome. When you try and take the hammer and wash your dishes with the hammer, it doesn't work. Right?
It breaks them.
You know what I mean? It will. And so a lot of times I thought that taking that hammer, right? Oh, well, I need to do it in another part. And so I would take money and say, I need to take money to be able to make me feel peaceful. And that's not what it was meant for. What it was meant for was to be able to be multiplied. And if it multiplied, then it gave me the freedom and the time to be able to read, to be able to spend time with my kids, which created the peace. But I was just taking the money and being like, yo, I remember at times I would be like, and this was with people, and I ran through people, even in my company, where I'd be like, you know what? Why are you complaining? This is how much you're making. And that's where I failed. As opposed to helping the person to understand, if you're making this and then you're being smart with it, then you could create this opportunity for some freedom, and that will fill you up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. It doesn't take much to fill you up if you think about it. Little things. It's just
little things like this, Bill. Little things like this. Biggie
that
Smalls.
weighed 20 pounds.
I know. Yeah. Concrete jungle is what it is. That's the now I'm thinking about Biggie, and I'm like, how much did I spend on Biggie? And over 10 years, if I just would have invested it. Thank you so much for making my toys not mean as much to me anymore, Bill. I'm joking with you.
I know you are, but there's a balance for all of this.
Of course.
It's not like saying you shouldn't do anything. When I had my student loans, I still went on vacation. Like I visited my friend in South Korea. I went. I was awarded a trip that I qualified for to go to Maui. Like I stayed a couple extra days. Like could I have used that money to pay off my loans? Whatever hundreds of dollars that was? Sure, totally. Do not, please, for the love of God, please do not just go so stiff and scarce with everything. Like it's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be really, really enjoyed with your loved ones and the people around you. But if you could understand how it could work for you in the most efficient way, that's how you win. You have to play your own game. It doesn't matter what your friends buy, what they do. If they're out partying and drinking and eating out every night, you don't need to do that stuff. Just get to your own alignment and figure out what's important to you. And it takes time. You're not going to figure it out overnight either. Like something happens in your life, right? Whether you get laid off or you have a kid or you get a big promotion and you're like, holy crap, I need to get my stuff together now. There's always those defining moments in people's lives. And it's either going to make you or break you financially. That's the truth. It's either going to help you or hurt you. And just be wise about it. Just take the time and figure out what you want. I'll stress that to the day that I die. And then let the technology do the work for you. Whatever app or financial company you use, just let things help you that are going to do it better than you. Just like everything else, the doctor, the dentist, you don't do your own teeth. Let people help you and just trust that process because it's going to be a fun journey.
Bill's going to be real humble, but I'm not. Like everybody out there, you need to use Diane money. Like Diane, it's so incredible because again, like your confidence level and your humility and your service minded heart is just like, you know what? There's so many different things out there, but I tell you, like the simplicity of what Diane money is ridiculous. It is. I mean, and what I love about it, because, and this is where I wanted to talk with you about, is because a lot of times a person will have a widget or a product or a service or a, you know, whatever it is, and they'll be like, this is the only way. And if you guys out there listen, Bill's saying there's not only one way. But the crazy thing about it is with Diane Money, what I'm seeing is that it adapts to who you are and that it helps you to play your game as opposed to you trying to compare yourself to everybody else. And that is mind-blowing, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's what separates this from everything else. Most places, they just put you through the rabbit hole and everyone goes through the same outputs. We're looking at everyone's specific scenarios and figuring it out with them. That's the fun part. It's all about you. It's not about how someone else gets paid or how an advisor or whomever gets paid. It's really simple advice and straightforward, actionable. You got to take action, mind you. And yeah, I just love being in this process right now and being where we're at. It's here, it's ready to help people. And there's going to be a lot of fun things coming down the pipeline in the future too, with new features. And you kind of hinted at one. That was super ironic because we haven't talked about that. So I've got some tricks up my sleeve in a good way to have made in the future. So it's just about having the right collaborations, the right people, and I just know it's going to help people. I really know that because of the feedback we've had in the test groups, and it's ready. Let's just rock and roll and make it happen. As our son James says, let's rock and roll.
Well, it's available right now at DianeMoney.com, and then the app is coming out February 15th. Am I correct?
Yep, that was my mom's birthday, so we're going to celebrate. We're going to have a big launch that day.
That's amazing, man. I started the podcast, you know why, is because of my two kids, and I wanted them to have, like, you know, the most iconic people in the whole entire world, like yourself. And I wanted them to realize that there was no idols, that there was just icons. And that was because the icons in life had crazy work ethic, great attitudes. And I wanted to help them personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially, and to be able to have the best in the world, be able to give them advice. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names, it would be awesome.
Maddox, McKenna, you have incredible parents. You know, Kelly, Brooklyn, you two are blessed, absolutely blessed. And just to have this body of evidence here, I'm using a Jeff Spencer term, the show, like the love, give this love to other people. That's what I would really recommend for you both, because you're getting it every single day with your family. Share this, share that love, because you know you have that. And from a financial perspective, I'd be very remiss if I didn't say something about money, Kelly. You have to enjoy your life, but take the time to do it right. If you get it set up right the first time, it probably could be, I always say could, it could be smooth sailing for the rest of your life. It takes one time to really set it up right, do it proper. You just got to get it right once, right? We say this all the time. You have to get it right once. If you do it right the first time, bigger and better futures coming your way.
Well, the slow and steady, I mean, the slow and steady part, and for all of you, and all my time being able to spend with Bill, he constantly has a consistent message, which is take your time. I mean, take your time and realize that it's not going to happen overnight. You got to put in the reps, you got to put in the work. And when you do, and now what's so great about it is now with Diane Money, he just said, like, we're going to put in the work with you. Like, we're going to take away so much of the grunt work for you, and we're going to be right there with you the whole time, man. And I want to thank you so much for every single person out there listening. I tell you, every one of you out there listening or watching, number one, if you're on YouTube, one of the 84% that's not subscribed, mash the button. Do it. You know you should. But from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you. I started off on this project, it's been about 2.5 years ago. And when I told people, they didn't understand. But that's been my whole entire life. And because of every single one of you listening, watching, sharing, you have put us in the top 1% globally of all podcasts, in the top 5% most shared podcast on Spotify. And I want to thank you for that. And from the bottom of my heart, this has been the coolest project that I've ever done in my entire life. And again, most people didn't understand it. They're like, well, what does it mean? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And for most of the time, I didn't take the time to just say, like, in my mind, I'm just like, you'll see, like, or you won't at some point. And so I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of our sponsors too that have been with us from the beginning. People have been riding with us. Wayne Freeman, for all your feedback, man, and for listening all the time and texting me and telling me that thank you so much for this episode, or I love this one, I'm waiting on this one, or whatever it was, man. I mean, Wayne, you have been right with me since like episode 1. And Bill, you were there. I mean, you've been with me from the very beginning too, man. I mean, very, very early on in this. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank you for your service to this world, man. And with Diane Money, I am so excited. I can't wait for the homie the clown to jump out and smack you with the sock when you're about to make a bad purchase. You know what I'm saying? Be like, homie, don't play that. Whap. So I think it'll be amazing. So now's the time, make sure you check out all the sponsors and everything like that. But we appreciate you and we're going to ask that Bill be on more and more, because I think that we as a country, we as a people, we as a world, we need to understand finances and be as calm and as collected and as David Carradine as you are, Bill, when it comes to finances, as opposed to getting so emotional.
Thank you, man. I love to. I'm on. Whenever you need me, I'm here. We're here for your people too. And you have an awesome audience. I love the show. I have always loved this show. I mean, it was years ago when you had me on for the first time because of our goofy friend, Justin Breen. But yeah, it's been a dream. It really is. And I'm super grateful for your friendship and just like those random messages and your videos. It just is great to have you in our lives, man.
Well, I appreciate you, man. And you're officially off the hot seat.